Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Sports Car Club of America, aka the DRSCCA, has been providing motorsports events since 1948. With over 1,400 members, there is no shortage of knowledge, history, and trailblazing ideas like this sim racing league. Thank you to all the participants and spectators for being a part of the augmentation and evolution of the region. The DRSCCA, of course, goes far beyond the virtual realm. In 2024, the region is hosting over 40 events over 60 days that can get you both behind the wheel or so close to it that it'll blow your hair back. The gamut of behind-the-wheel events includes road racing, road rally, rallycross, autocross, and a competition driving school. Support for the Detroit Grand Prix, Formula SAE programs, and Street Survival are also amazing opportunities to help sculpt future and professional drivers. Check out DRSCCA.org for more information. Additionally, we would like to thank Waterford Hills Road Racing, Metro Detroit's only permanent sanctioned road course. Waterford Hills, located in Clarkston, Michigan, hosts a 6-weekend race series, competition driving school, and 9 public open track days. The track is hot from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on these event days and is open to the public. A nominal $5 entry fee is all it takes for you to get close to the action. Check out waterfordhills.com for more details. An additional thank you goes to the Michigan Turn Marshals for their support as well. If you'd like to get close to the action, be sure to check out michiganturnmarshals.org. They can train you to support races like the 2025 Detroit Grand Prix. And last but certainly not least, we would like to thank the supporting partner of the DRSCCA series, that being Superlap. Located on the world-renowned Woodward Avenue in Berkeley, Michigan, Superlap is a sim drive studio, a space to meet and compete. With professional-grade racing simulators, they are a premier racing and driving experience venue. They will help you achieve your motorsports goals with education, practice, and training. If you're a race fan, you may be familiar with Formula 1. Well, interestingly enough, the reigning 3-time Formula 1 world champion is a pretty big proponent of sim racing. If Max Verstappen uses a sim, shouldn't you? You can race and practice against an AI roster, go head-to-head with other humans, or both for that matter. They also offer league play like the DRSCCA League. Go to superlap.world for details. Thank you to all the partners and people who make this series and these broadcasts possible, and now on with tonight's action. evening, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV, and welcome to the Detroit Region SCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. This is round number 1 of the season, coming to you tonight from Laguna Seca. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Bushell, and in the virtual production hall waiver, old buddy Joshua Wilkie. As fall begins and the festivities from this year's DRSCCA season wind down, this brand new Sim Series season begins. We've got a fantastic series of races to look forward to in these Formula 4 cars over the next 7 weeks, but it all starts tonight, Charles, running out one of the most storied and most famous motorsports facilities in not just the country, but the world as well. Laguna Seca is always a fun ride. So what are your thoughts heading into this opening race of this brand new season?
Yeah, I can't wait. I love starting new seasons up, new series. The F4 car is just one of those cars that's kind of low on the order as you're working your way up the open wheel ladder, and it's a fun little car to drive. It's a handful, to be fair. It seems like it's got a little more horsepower than it does downforce, so it makes it a little challenging to keep the rear end and the back where it's supposed to be, but looking forward to it. And yeah, Laguna Seca, what can you say? Iconic track, some great corners. There's going to be plenty of places to make passes and plenty of places to be patient and try and avoid incidents. So looking forward to see what these drivers have for us tonight.
Oh, it is going to be a fantastic night of racing action to kick this season off. A fantastic track to do it as well. 11 corners in all around this racetrack that's been operational for many, many moons. Still operational to this day, hosting IMSA races, IndyCar races. It was originally reconfigured to the layout that we have today to try and hold Formula 1 back in the day. However, that never really came to pass. But tonight, it's holding the opening race of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series here for the Formula 4s. And we're already through the qualifying session. Gotta say, already coming into this broadcast with the qualifying session not just underway, but the checkered flag is already out, folks. And I gotta say, Russell Soto in the number 50 car has been pretty fast thus far, and it looks like he's going to be on the provisional pole in comforting fashion as well. So that is a pretty good lap time from him to grab the opening pole of this opening race of the season at a 121.738, nearly a half a second in front of rolled in P2 Russell Soto, the Puerto Rican, in that number 50 car. Real-life driver in... well, the real-life driver as well, so he is definitely very fast in this series. The Formula 4s proving to be absolutely no different. Got a whole lot of drivers still yet to finish their qualifying session. Here's Vaughn Mishko in the number 99 car. He's going to be riding his way around the final corner, going onto that start-finish straightaway to finish up his final qualifying lap. It's not an improvement on his 122.382 previous best lap time. However, still got some drivers out there on the racetrack. Gotta say, a small little odd thing that we noticed coming into this session, pretty cool as well. We mentioned Superlap at the very beginning of the show, one of the fantastic sponsors that we have for this series of racing action. But we got some drivers racing at Superlap tonight, and you can see them marked with Superlap 4, the number 16 car that we're riding on board with at this point in time, currently qualified at 125.845, so we'll see what they can do to possibly improve on this qualifying time. Looks like they did not get a lap time on the board, possibly some sort of invalidation, but nevertheless, still some lap times left to not be set. We're following Superlap 7, the number 4 car. I don't believe this car has yet to set a time on the board and will not set a time on the board in the qualifying session. So that will do it from qualifying. And we're going to move out of qualifying and into a 10-minute warm-up session. So a little bit odd to have a warm-up session right before the race and right after qualifying, but nevertheless, going to move into a warm-up session here today, which I think gives us more of an opportunity, Charles, to talk about the real fun and also the fantastic history surrounding this venue.
Yeah, as you said, it's a pretty iconic track. You know, there's points here that are kind of world renowned. Obviously, the first thing when you think about Laguna Seca is you think about the corkscrew, that 5-story drop coming to the back half of the lap. You just basically you're falling off a cliff, trying to get the car stopped to get turned into the corkscrew and work your way through. But there are other corners out here as well. Obviously, turn 1 and 2, the Andretti hairpin. Great place to make a pass. You're going to be at your maximum velocity coming down there. You're going to have to manage the brakes. These cars do not have ABS, so you're going to have to manage the brakes well. and try and outbreak your competitors to try and make that move around. And then the rest of the lap, there's, and we talk about the other one is one of my favorites to talk about is that corner just before the corkscrew going up the hill. I call it the kink. I don't know that it has a particular name or if it would just call it the kink, but it's one of those. It's basically a one line through that corner. You go too far inside, you hit the curb, you just basically throw your car skyward. You take too much through there, and you're going to run off in the sand on the outside of the exit of the corner, as we see here with Superlap 7 going through. That is a very, very tight corner. That is one of those no passing zones that I like to call it. And so, if you try to make a pass through there, it's next to impossible to get through there cleanly, even with small cars such as these F4 cars.
Yeah, even in these Formula 4 cars, it's still going to be a fantastic fight around this racetrack. The Formula 4, both in real life and in the sim, is pretty much just a go-kart with wings on it. So I'm sure these drivers have a whole lot of fun here today. And we heard at the very beginning of the show about some of the fantastic partners that we have here from the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. And I think while we're in the midst of this warm-up session and have about 7.5 minutes left to go until we get the 30-minute race up and rolling and ready to rock and roll, I think we'll hear from some of those fantastic partners that we have yet again. Coverage of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series on Apex Racing TV is brought to you by the DRSCCA. The Detroit Region Sports Car Club of America, aka the DRSCCA, has been providing motorsports events since 1948. With over 1,400 members, there is no shortage of knowledge, history, and trailblazing ideas like this sim racing league. Thank you to all the participants and spectators for being a part of the augmentation and evolution of the region. The DRSCCA, of course, goes far beyond the virtual realm. In 2024, the region is hosting over 40 events over 60 days that can get you both behind the wheel or so close to it that it'll blow your hair back. The gamut of behind-the-wheel events includes road racing, road rally, rallycross, autocross, and a competition driving school. Support for the Detroit Grand Prix, Formula SAE programs, and Street Survival are also amazing opportunities to help sculpt future and professional drivers. Check out drscca.org for more information. Additionally, we would like to thank Waterford Hills Road Racing, Metro Detroit's only permanent sanctioned road course. Waterford Hills, located in Clarkston, Michigan, hosts a 6-weekend race series, competition driving school, and 9 public open track days. The track is hot from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on these event days and is open to the public. A nominal $5 entry fee is all it takes for you to get close to the action. Check out waterfordhills.com for more details. An additional thank you goes to the Michigan Turn Marshals for their support as well. If you'd like to get close to the action, be sure to check out michiganturnmarshals.org. They can train you to support races like the 2025 Detroit Grand Prix. And last but certainly not least, we would like to thank the supporting partner of the DRSCCA series, that being Superlap. Located on the world-renowned Woodward Avenue in Berkeley, Michigan, Superlap is a sim drive studio, a space to meet and compete. With professional-grade racing simulators, they are a premier racing and driving experience venue. They will help you achieve your motorsports goals with education, practice, and training. If you're a race fan, you may be familiar with Formula 1. Well, interestingly enough, the reigning 3-time Formula 1 world champion is a pretty big proponent of sim racing. If Max Verstappen uses a sim, shouldn't you? You can race and practice against an AI roster, go head-to-head with other humans, or both for that matter. They also offer league play like the DRSCCA League. Go to superlap.world for details. Thank you to all the partners and people who make this series and these broadcasts possible, and now on with tonight's action. And we are still in the midst of this warm-up session, bracing ourselves for what's going to be a fantastic night of racing action here from the opening race of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. Still in this warm-up session, some drivers saying some lap times on the board. Got some of the Superlap cars out there. Aaron Reuter, who we're following in the number 27 car, he's yet to set a lap time on the board. Did he set a lap time there? No, I don't believe he did. May have had an off-track encounter that caused that lap time to be invalidated. But nevertheless, still seeing these cars run around this fantastic road course, which, as we mentioned in the open, is a fantastically historic circuit in the world of American motorsports. Opened all the way back in November of 1957, and originally originally, folks, this kind of gone the way of the dodo bird in terms of the history of this track. The original run at the very beginning of the lap from the Andretti hairpin, well, what is now the Andretti hairpin, up until turn number 5 that we just saw Aaron Reuter go through, that entire section of like turns number 3 and 4 was skipped. It was just a straight line little detour path between turns number 2, the Andretti hairpin, and turn 5. So that's a pretty fun fact about this racetrack, and that was really the case of how this racetrack was laid out all the way up until about 1987 when it was reconfigured, trying to get Formula 1 here, and it actually increased the track length from 1.9 miles up to a solid 2.2. Then had another brief reconfiguration to the course that we have to this day. That's been in use ever since 1996. It's been the same track layout that has seen many exciting moments over the years. I remember the Romain Grosjean going for a move on Jimmy Johnson back at the IndyCar race in 2021 at this very venue. Small little flashback to back in the day when Alex Zanardi went for the pass into the corkscrew on Brian Herta towards the end of the kart race back in 1996. Got a lot of fantastic history around this track, and looking to have some fantastic racing here tonight. Russell Soto once again setting a very quick lap time in this warm-up session. Looks like Russell Soto is probably going to be the driver that we keep our eyes on all season long, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he so far looks like he's got really good pace, and to add to your memories there, I can also remember Romain Grosjean driving a road car into the pit wall, and that was just in recent memory as well. But that being said, that yeah, you're right. There's if you go out to YouTube, you can do some looking. There's some great old IMSA races out there that involve GT1s and Daytona prototypes and things like that, and it's just fantastic to go out and watch some of those old races. And you know, the SCCA is here quite frequently. Lots of action here at Laguna Seca. As I was actually kind of watching the Nationals last week, a lot of that was broadcast on YouTube, and it was fun to watch some of those races for SCCA. So, you know, these the F4s are going to be it's going to be quite the challenge tonight. But I think there's a couple guys out here that look like they've got a good handle on the car, so we might be in for a pretty good race.
And you're going to be testing my knowledge for sure. Ever since you brought that up, I'm now trying to figure out. It was 2014 when WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which I believe at that point was still called Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, hosted the SCCA National Runoffs back in 2014. And I gotta say, we've talked a lot about the Detroit region of the SCCA. I'm a member of the SCCA myself, have been now for 10 years. In fact, I have my 10-year membership pinned back in March, I believe, of this very year, March or April. I forget when exactly I got that shipped in the mail. An SCCA member for 10 years. Most of my life has been spent as a member of the Sports Car Club of America. Always ran in the autocross side of things, never really got into the road racing side of stuff. I was an autocrosser in the kart program, running in the junior karts and also kart modified back in the day. Got out of the seat back in 2023 after a pretty nasty back injury that I had here on the East Coast. Primarily ran out of the Philadelphia, NEPA, and South Jersey regions towards the end of my driving career. But the SCCA, fantastic organization. I gotta say, in my time going out to the SCCA Solo Nationals out in Lincoln, Nebraska, got to meet a few members of the Detroit region of the SCCA. It was always nice to see a lot of those drivers, and even got to run against a driver who isn't from the Detroit region of the SCCA, but is also one of our fellow commentators here at Apex Racing TV. Is a moment for the 4-car going off the circuit. That's a number 16 Superlap 4-car having an off-track excursion. But Larry Lefty McLeod, who I believe is an SCCA racer from Michigan, got an opportunity to race against him in the kart mod category out in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2021 and 2022. But this warm-up session is over, and we're ready to get things rolling and ready to rock for the opening race of this DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. And we're going to get the starting grid, the first starting grid up for you right about now. Russell Soto behind the wheel of the number 50 car going to be starting this race from the pole after setting a 1 minute 21.738 lap time. Kevin Rold going to join him on the front row in the number 10 car, about a half a second off in that qualifying session earlier. earlier. Tyler King, the Aerokinetics number 21 car, he's going to be starting this race in third. Vaughn Mishko going to be joining him on the second row. Aaron Rudder in the number 27 going to be starting this race in fifth. Andrew Mowat going to be starting this race in sixth. Starting this race in 7th is going to be Ryan Goff in the number 20 car. Roger Olson going to join him on that 4th row, and rounding out your top 10 is going to be William Linder and Trenton McMillian.
Yeah, starting the second half of the grid, Michael Schmidt in P11. Matthew Malone is in 12th. Coming down to 13th, we have Sean Gaynor. Jason Williams is in 14th. Then we have the Superlap 3 driver in 15th, Superlap 8 in 16th, Superlap 4 in 17th. Eugene Clark is in 18th, Superlap 6 in 19th. Dominic Batts is in 20th, and rounding out our 21 car grid, we have Superlap 7.
And I am about 98% sure that Matthew Malone there is the iRacing streamer Matt Malone, which is very nice to see. I remember him making his appearance on Apex Racing TV a couple of months ago during a broadcast of the Radical Esports Cup, which you can catch every single Friday here on Apex Racing TV at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. That series I was a part of for many, many moons, and I remember my first season out of the broadcast booth for that series, Matt ended up making his appearance on that. So it's very odd to be commentating on a race that a guy who I've been watching since about 2018 is racing in. So nevertheless,
I don't think that's him. I don't think that's him. I think that is a different driver.
I think it may be just based off his iRacing rating and all that stuff. Are you skeptical possibly? Because I know he is from Michigan and Illinois areas.
Yeah, yeah, he's a Chicago guy. So I think most everybody in here, with the exception of Soto, was Michigan. So I don't think that's him. I did check earlier when I was in the practice, and he is not streaming, or he was not streaming during the practice session. So I don't think that's him. Could be wrong. I could be pleasantly surprised, and it would be awesome if that was the only Matt Malone. But I think this is just Matthew Malone.
Yeah, whether it be Matt Malone or Matthew Malone, we got Malone in this field, and we've got a big field of Formula 4s ready to get things up and rolling and ready to rock. From the debut race of this season, we've got 6 races, and it all starts tonight here on Apex Racing TV. That pace car going to make that turn to come down pit lane. The field is now going to be in the hands of our pole sitter, Russell Soto, looking to try and kick off this race and this season in convincing fashion. We've got 30 minutes of racing action to look forward to, and it's all about to start now. The green flag's down. The drivers are on their way. A little bit more disorganized, a little bit farther in the back. Some drivers are already going for some moves. It's a long run up to turn number 1. These drivers are already going to be tempting fate. 3 wide action heading down into turn number 1. Soto on that inside line going to be leading comfortably. Meanwhile, there's a big crash, big amount of contact heading down through the Andretti hairpin for the first time in this race. That's a spinner. Who is that? That's Dominic Batts, I believe, in the number 9 car. He's gone for a spin. He's gone off the circuit, and I'm not sure who he was going 3 wide with. Actually, I believe that may have been Vaughn Mishko. That was the car that was stopped and spun around. Another car going for a spin coming out of turn number 3, but looking at most of the field, they've made it through clean outside of a few mistakes here and there. That number 4 car, I believe, is one of the Superlap competitors, unless I'm very much mistaken. Yeah, they have gone off the circuit. Yes, it is a Superlap 7 car, so tough start for them. They start at the back, and they're running at the back about 10 seconds back of the next closest car and about 20 seconds back of the leader. But it looks like Vaughn Mishko in the number 99 car was one of the cars involved in that opening corner schmozzle heading down into the Andretti hairpin, which, despite being labeled as turn number 2, is really the first corner that these drivers have to wink an eye at. But looking through most of the field, getting through the first lap clean, which is definitely a big key when it comes to trying to be victorious in this opening race of the season.
Yeah, it was otherwise pretty clean start. Obviously, we talked about the incident with Mishko, and one of the other cars in Superlap 7 had another little spin all on their own. So the rest of the cars have got off cleanly. So now we get the I don't know. I'm wondering if there's going to be enough of I don't know if there's enough straightaway here for us to have what we would call a draft train for these cars. But it'll be interesting to see if that's kind of how things play out.
Oh, and you can see these drivers biting the curbs like it's going out of style. Gotta say, despite the fact that usually in any sort of open wheel race car, you kind of want to avoid the curbs, look like that's going to be part of the diet for these racers here tonight. Looking at some of the drivers that dropped farther in the back a little bit. At the very beginning of the race, Vaughn Mishko was one of the drivers involved in that opening lap. Shamazel, Dominic Batts, I believe he lost out on some spots as well. I'm not sure if he was involved in that lap 1, turn 2 incident, but we'll take a look at the replay to see exactly what happened. There you can see Mishko on the outside line. He had a fantastic start in the 99 car, but there you can see 3 wide action gone desperately wrong, and it was a bunch of bumper cars action heading through there. Trying to figure out how Dominic may have gotten involved in that. Not sure exactly how that happened. Maybe a pit lane start, possibly. Not entirely sure.
Yeah,
what
either
may
that
have
or
gone
just
there.
either that or just checked up, just to try to avoid all the cars trying to recover themselves, and just basically lost positions, just playing it safe. So, but nice job by Mishka's already back up into 14th. So he has got some good pace in the car. Doesn't look like the car's damaged. So he's going to see if he can work his way back up toward that top 10.
And looking up towards the front of the field, following Ryan Goff in the number 20 car. He's running in the final podium position at the moment. However, he's got a fight on his hands with himself and Reuter right behind. Those 2 cars covered by barely any air, heading down into turn number 5. Looking at a moment possibly involving Gaynor in the number 17 car. He's gone off the circuit. He's losing out on a whole bunch of time. So not sure what happened to him. Possibly going to try and find a replay to see exactly what went wrong for Gaynor in that number 17 car. He was running, I believe, either knocking on the door of the top 10 or actually inside the top 10. However, he's lost out on a whole lot of time thus far in this lap. Hopefully this may be the replay to see what happened to Sean Gaynor, the Michigander, in that number 17 car. Heading his way down into turn number 4, a really tricky corner to try and psych out, touch the dirt on the outside. Yep. And there you can see him go off the circuit, spinning into the gravel trap, wildly out of control and being very careful on the rejoin. Yeah,
nice job on the rejoin to not really get out and try and force anybody off the track. So it was very patient rejoining. But yeah, yes, one of the things about these cars is they grew up really well on that gray stuff, but you get off in that dirt and because of the difference in the off-track physics modeling, that the friction of the dirt basically just wants the car to just turn around. And so as you can see, just didn't have enough to be able to hold the corner, spun the car, rejoined. So now got a little bit of work to do to get back up toward the position he was at to begin with.
I'm going to take a look at another replay involving some of the drama that we've had thus far in this race. It's been a pretty hectic start, it must be said, and here it was the onboard of Dominic Batts in that number 9 car, heading his way off into turn number 2, the Andretti hairpin the first time by. And I think, yeah, you're right there, Charles, just having to check up badly to avoid all the spinning cars and all the chaos surrounding him. That, I think, was a main reason why he lost out on a whole lot of time, with that major detour as a near off-track excursion for Roger Olson running in the 6th spot. I think he just lost out on spots to William Lindner that got the move done on him heading into the corkscrew. But yeah, I think your theory was exactly right about Batts there, Charles. Just having to take some off-track encounters and some detours heading down into turn number 2. That's really the only reason why he lost out on that much time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, it happens sometimes is you just, you give a little to get some of it back later. So obviously was able to avoid contact but cost himself some time in the process.
Yeah, that was a big time loss for him. Thankfully, we got 30 minutes of racing from this series, so a whole lot of time to dust yourself off, especially after the trip through the gravel trap to try and get the rest of the race ready to go. And look at that. That was full commitment, it must be said. William Lindler holding on to that spot. I thought originally it was an overtake after Roger Olson went off the circuit, hang down into the corkscrew, but it was actually an attempted overtake from Olson, and credit's due to him. The fact he was that sideways and was able to keep that car going in a straight line. That is such a tricky corner to try and get right, especially in these Formula 4 race cars. The car goes a little bit light, but it looks like Olson going to try and go for the move again, reeling him in slowly but surely. Going to try and go for the move again around the outside, trying to pull off a dummy, but around the outside, hang through into the corkscrew is not a successful overtake. That section of the circuit is tricky enough single file, let alone side by side. So looking like he tried to go for the move, but just wasn't close enough to make it stick.
Yeah, he's getting really good runs up the hill from turn 5 through the kink up to the corkscrew, but Reuter's doing a good job of just staying defensive on that inside line, and Olsen's trying to work his way around the outside, but it just seems like he just locks up a little bit too much, locks the brakes. The front tires kind of lock up a little bit, so he just kind of has to recover that and try again the next lap. And so far, that's been the repeated chorus for the last 3 laps.
And looking at one of the Superlap cars is a Superlap 4 number 16 entry. They've come into the pits along with the Superlap 6 number 6. Very fitting numbering there going on with that car. I believe of all the Superlap cars, that's the only one that really has a corresponding number. That and technically the 3 and the 8, albeit they're 13 and 18 respectively. So you can count that if you would. Give it half credit possibly. Nevertheless, looking at a fight continuing with Reuter and Goff. Looks like Reuter's going to be in that slipstream. Going to maybe try and go for a move heading down into the corkscrew. Lindner dropping back a little bit, but Reuter going for the move to make it up into the final podium position, and it looks like he gets that move done successfully for now. However, look at that great run from Goff. I think Reuter maybe had some sort of slowdown penalty that he's in the process of serving. Yeah, very slow at the moment, losing out on some time to Ryan Goff. So I think Ryan Goff playing the safe game and getting the move done when everything is said and done. Lost out on that spot very briefly. And going for a spin coming out of the final corner. There you can see the Superlap 6 car. That's wrecked and destroyed, but that was a big bit of drama involving Goff. He's gone for the spin. He's gone off the circuit. I don't think there's any damage there, but Goff losing out on a whole lot of time, and you can see the car catching up to him right now is Lindner. I think Lindner also had a moment as well because he's lost out on a whole lot of time as well. He was involved in a fight with Olsen for P4. However, he's lost, actually it was P5 at that point, considering the spin that we just saw for Goff. It then became a fight for P4, but Goff going off in a major source of drama. See what I did there a couple of moments ago? Nice wordplay on this broadcast tonight on Apex Racing TV. A big curb whack hitting the floor a little bit, and sends Goff around at a big amount of contact into the pit wall.
Yeah, that's the challenge these cars are going to have. If they're going to keep trying to nibble at those curbs, they're going to have some that, you know, they're going to end up taking too big of a bite, and that's what happened with Goff. He just took that inside curb. It just unsettled the car. Probably the car was still bouncing. He tried to get back on the throttle as we see another spin there. That's Goff again, and that is through the kink. So obviously struggling a little bit, maybe some damage from that backing into the wall, the pit wall. So he may have to come in for a pit stop himself to get that repaired.
Oh, and Vaughn Mishko has made a run down pit lane. Not sure what happened to him. That and Michael Schmidt. Michael Schmidt also making a run down into the pits. I think there may have been some sort of collision between the driver the number 2 and driver the number 99 car. Gotta try and find the replay to see exactly what may have happened. Devon Mishko had a fantastic start, got involved in an incident though, and then dropped back like a rock. And here's a replay. You can see him heading through, and big contact. Oh, and going nearly up in the air. Did go up in the air, nearly went for a full flip.
Yeah,
Mishko ballparked it there, so that's the first time we've seen that thus far this season. A big moment for him, and a very strange-looking collision with himself and Schmidt coming out of the corkscrew. That's such a tricky corner, especially on exit, but that was possibly one of the strangest collisions I've seen in quite some time in iRacing. I'll take a look at another angle of that from Michael Schmidt's perspective in the number 2 car. That was a goofy-looking collision, to be sure, but a race ender for the both of them.
Yeah, he just got wide and lost the rear end of the car, and just there's really nowhere for the 99 car to go. Mishko just at the wrong place at the wrong time. When you lose the car and you're sideways across the track coming out of the corkscrew, it's just, you just got to hope that the car's not there when you get there. Not really that much you can do with it. So tough break for Mishko. He was doing a good job of recovering his positions from the early incident. And just, once again, like I said, wrong place, wrong time.
I gotta say, Mishko, as much as iRacing counted him as ballparking it, I really don't think he did. And I mean, I feel like I would possibly be biased in this judgment just based off the fact I live in the city of Philadelphia, follow the Philadelphia Phillies, and I got knocked out of contention for the NLCS title last night with the Mets pulling off a grand slam in the I nearly said 6th quarter. That's not how math works at all. The 6th inning, there we go. Can really tell that I know more about virtual race cars and real life race cars than I do about any stick and ball sports. But as a Phillies fan, I feel like I should probably have a little bit bias when it comes to ballparking it. But it looked like he probably would have kept it within the bounds of the racetrack, but iRacing just decided to yoink him back to pit lane as soon as he could. That's tough though for Mishko, because after that incident at the very beginning, despite having damage, he still kept it going quite strong. And speaking of quite strong, that was going to be a strongly bold maneuver from Mowid heading down into the corkscrew. Another driver trying to get past Olsen. Olsen was the one trying to get past, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, it was Lindner earlier on that he was trying to overtake. So it looks like you got a clash of titans between Olsen and Mowid, who have both just gone for sends thus far in this race. And look at Rolda as well, who started this race on the front row and got involved in that incident with Mishko. He's now trying to battle hard in this fight.
Yeah, Olsen had gotten by. We didn't see it. It was off screen, but Olsen managed to get by Lindner. He'd made several attempts at the corkscrew. He found another place to make the move, probably in that final corner. Then something happened to Lindner and he dropped back. So now it's Olsen and Mowid. Mowid just very aggressive, late braking going into the corkscrew that last lap. I kind of made a grunt. I was watching that as we were doing the onboard. And so he looks like he's got some pace. Let's see if he's got enough pace. He's going to have to get a good run up the hill as they're working their way through the kink here. If he can get a good run up the hill, maybe he'll get side by side and kind of force the issue, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to get that run this time.
But they're still pretty close heading down into the corkscrew. Some drivers have gone for sends thus far. Would not rule out one of these battles at the end of this race being decided with an absolute send. Take a look at another replay of the drama that we've seen thus far. This, I believe, was Olsen getting the move done on Lindner earlier on, heading down into turn number 11 at the end of this lap. And there's Lindner having a big sideways snap coming out of the corner. Doesn't go around, however, he ends up losing out on that spot as Olsen drives around him to make it up a position, and now he finds himself in 4th, running effectively in no man's land, about 15.5 seconds off of our leader of Soto. But looking right now, Kevin Roll trying to get a move done down the inside on Mowid, heading into turn number 2. And look at that, running wide is Olsen, so now Mowid trying to battle with him. This is definitely a 3-car fight. All these drivers attempting to get oh so racy with each other. But look at Mowid with a big curb whack on that anti-cut sausage on the inside of turn number 3. That's going to lose him out on a whole lot of time to the back of Olsen, and now falls back into the crutches of Rolled in the number 10 car. These cars covered by barely any air at this point. It's only about a half a second separating 3 cars. They aren't battling for a podium. They aren't battling for the victory. However, they're battling for the final 2 spots inside the top 5. And come time for the end of the season, those points can definitely make a big difference. Rolled running very wide on corner exits, getting very, very flirtatious with that outside dirt coming into one of the corners around this racetrack, nearly 3 wide. These drivers are feeling oh so bold and audacious, and even with that off-track excursion for Rolled, he had a beautiful run going onto the right haul straightaway, heading down into the corkscrew. I feel like something's got to give here soon, Charles, because this is tense.
Yeah, it's pretty tense. So you're halfway through the race. There's still another just under 15 minutes to go. But yeah, these guys are battling hard, and these cars, obviously, they're a step up from our entry level open wheel cars, the Formula 4, the Skippy. They've got more downforce with the fixed rear wing, but they're still very much a momentum car. And as you can see with these curb strikes, just arrest the momentum. And so, if you think you were going to get a run by kind of cutting a corner a little bit, not so much, because you lose so much traction as you're hitting those curbs that it's hard to recover that momentum in time to actually do something on the end of these straightaways. As we take a look now at our leader, Russell Soto, kind of checked out a little bit, got a 4-second lead over King in second. So he's sitting comfortably. King obviously running in second with a nice 6-second or so gap between him and Reuter in third.
I gotta say, both of these drivers at the front are incredibly capable race car drivers here in the world of iRacing. Russell Soto certainly proving that at this point, but we can't discount the talent of Tyler King. There's another series broadcasted here on Apex Racing TV in which he is the championship leader in convincing fashion. I believe it's an LMP3 car that he is leading in that Aerokinetics number 21. Not leading at this point in the opening race of this season. However, he is certainly proving himself to be a very worthy adversary to Russell Soto. Those two cars have entirely checked out, pretty much running in their completely different zip code here in California for the opening race of this season. Look at Mowat getting a move put on him, maybe by Rolled, heading down into turn number 1. Rolled not close enough to get that move done, but those drivers still covered by barely any air. It's still only about 6 to 7 tenths of a second separating those two drivers, those three drivers, I should say. Really, the gaps between all of them very wildly. I think Olsen blinking out of existence, some UFO activity already happening this early on into this season, so hopefully that's not going to affect Olsen and his chances on finishing well from the opening race of this DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. However, he's got a fight on his hands with Mowat and Rolled. It looked like Mowat was feeling particularly bold heading down into turn number 6 and nearly went for a move. However, I think Rolled has a fantastic opportunity to maybe snipe off one of these cars heading down into the corkscrew. Close, but not close enough to go for the move. Gotta say, Mowat had a pretty significant curb whack heading through 5 and 6. Those red curbs on the inside are such a game ender in these Formula 4s, really in all sorts of race cars as well, Charles. You hit those, can't really even call them a curb, they're more so an urban plateau. You just hit those and it ends in tears. And speaking of nearly ending in tears, Mowat and Olsen nearly came to blows hanging into turn number 11. That was oh so close.
That was very close, and yeah, it was just a late break and then a lock up, and then you could just see it's very hard. You have to, because these cars don't have ABS, once you lock one of those tires up, then you've got to kind of come back and do a little cadence braking to try and get the car stopped, and also try not to hit your competitors. And so good job by Mowat to avoid any contact, get the car checked up, and can continue on with this nice 3-car battle. And yeah, these cars are just they're just kicking it around and they're looking and they're kind of probing to see where they're get it. But you're absolutely right. Those orange sausage curbs are just terrible. I just, even with GT cars, I just more often than not just avoid them. With these cars, you absolutely could destroy your car and your race with one curb strike.
I think Mowat and Rolled just came together heading down into the corkscrew. Yes, they have. Kevin Rolled in the number 10 car getting involved with Mowat. Those two drivers were side by side going up the hill, down the right haul straightaway, down into the corkscrew, and they nearly just had a horrible collision heading down at one of the fastest points of this racetrack. They made contact. That lapped car, that I believe was a Superlap 7, the number 4 car in Sim, was a driver that they came to blows with. That was a lapped car, I should say, that was involved in that. There you could see, and them side by side heading down.
Yeah.
Oh, you could see big amount of airtime. That, I believe, was Mowat having the aerial acrobatics heading into the corkscrew. You can see the Superlap 7 car also looking to try and avoid that, spinning themselves out, both have sympathy and trying to avoid the collision. But look at that, Rolled. Wow. Can't really put that on Rolled at all, I gotta say, just based off that first look of that collision. Andrew Mowat in that number 14, he was definitely feeling antsy, he was feeling risky, and he wanted to try and hold off on that spot because he felt he had a good shot to try and challenge Roger Olsen for that P4 position. But you can see he lost out on that spot to Rolled, and Mowat just going for a move of pure desperation, heading down to the corkscrew, taking out two very good race cars from this race.
Yeah, that was I won't say it's desperation, but it definitely was a difference between the braking points of the two drivers. Just Mowat, I just felt like he had a better braking point, and just contact was made, and that's what we talked about. That is a very difficult place to try and make a move. You have to get that move done fairly early, going up the hill. As we see, Superlap 4 looks like he's had a little off-track excursion as well. Has rejoined the race. Definitely looked like a weird line coming out of the corkscrew there for the 16 car.
Yeah, certainly not the ideal line at all, and I think we should really have a class for these Superlap drivers. Really cool to have them all participating in this race at the Superlap HQ in Berkeley, Michigan. We've already heard about them throughout this broadcast, but I gotta say, pretty cool to see some Superlap patrons, shall we say, running in this race. I think we need a class for these drivers of their own, and at the moment it would be the number 13 car, the Superlap 3 entry, who's running in 12th at this point, still the last car on the lead lap to the leader, Russell Soto, who's still leading quite comfortably. Don't tell me I jinxed them. They're coming down pit lane in the number 13 car. Possibly this is a way to get the race leader of Soto in front of them. Possibly, I'm not entirely sure, but either way, the Superlap 3 car making that run to come down pit lane. Such a bad time for me to mention them. Even for Superlap competitors, the commentator jinx seems to hit them as well. Looks like maybe a drive-through penalty, possibly for incident limits in sim, but nevertheless, it looks like they're going to be out and away after a quick run through the pits. Now, try and see if there is a incident limit here in this series, but either way, making that run down pit lane, not going to worry Russell Soto at all, as he's still leading 6.7 seconds in front of Tyler King and P2, and Reuter is currently about 12 seconds back of Soto, but still, even with that run down pit lane, the Superlap 3 car is running in the lead of the Superlap entries. Pretty nice story to follow throughout the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I promise you, if these guys are as competitive as the rest of the racers are, he will be letting everybody know he was the one that finished the highest of all the group that's racing there tonight. I absolutely promise that. And yeah, I did check, and it's a 17x limit for a drive-through penalty, and then every 5 after that. So hopefully that Superlap 3's one and only trip down pit road. He can or they can finish off the race with bragging rights there in the Superlap facility.
Yeah, that'll be maybe an award or something like that. Just give them a small little trophy when everything is said and done. I feel like we're definitely going to keep tabs on this. It may not be a class in the series marked by the race officials, but I think we'll make our own little broadcasters championship storyline. Even if it may be different competitors in those cars week after week, that'd still be a pretty fun storyline to just follow the Superlap cars, because it's really cool to see this sort of stuff. For as long as I've been involved in racing, as the Superlap 4 car having a big moment coming out of turn number 9. They go for a spin. Thankfully, they keep it out of the barrier, so well done to the number 16 driver. The fact they keep it going, hopefully not going to have an off-track encounter again, possibly with Golf, who's the next car behind them. I'm not sure where Golf is. There Golf is. That was a very comedic timing from Ryan Golf to appear in screen right as I was about to play Where's Waldo with the driver of the number 20 car, and there's that Superlap 4 number 16 entry making a run down pit lane. Are they going to stop in their box, or is this going to be yet another drive-through penalty? Remains to be determined, but I think we need to keep tabs on the Superlap cars, kind of have our own championship standings with that as well. That'll be a fun little game to play throughout the 6-race calendar that we have from the DRSCCA series. Got a fantastic schedule of races to look forward to that we'll touch on in a little bit. But from my experience in racing, I always loved getting other people involved. I used to bring my go-karts I used to race to car shows and all that, and the kids, and even the adults for that matter, were just so enthralled. I feel like I made, me and my dad bringing the go-kart to the car shows probably made some very bad financial decisions for some of the people who may have been a little bit too interested in that racing. I mean, racing ain't cheap at all, and especially not in the world of karting. But looking at this race, less than 5 minutes to go, and Russell Soto just absolutely dominant.
Yeah, Soto's just continuing to build that gap. Looks like the gap from King to Reuters kind of tightened up, or at least kind of stayed even. So hasn't really moved very much. And I was kind of watching. That was a drive-through penalty for Superlap 4. So they drove through, with a spin like that, wouldn't have been surprised to stop for a change in tires. But they continue on, so they'll finish this race off with a little about 4 minutes left. So we've only got about 3 laps or so left in the race.
And not a whole lot of time left for these drivers. It's been a pretty clean race, it must be said, outside of a few incidents here and there. The incident hanging down into the corkscrew was really the only major bit of contact we've had outside of the Mishko incident in which he ballparked and then left the session shortly thereafter. And that was himself and Schmidt that went off the circuit. Those two drivers, both many laps down. Outside of that, the incident heading down into, actually heading up into the corkscrew involving Mowat and Rolled, and also the Andretti hairpin Schmazel on the first lap of the race. Been pretty clean, it must be said, from these drivers. So putting on a pretty good show to kick this season off. Got a fantastic schedule of races to look forward to. Tracks, of course, tonight, Laguna Seca, but tracks to look forward to, including Road Atlanta, Long Beach, Watkins Glen, Coda, and Lime Rock Park to bring this season to a close between now and November the 21st with a 1-week break for Halloween. So that would be nice to have a small little break for Halloween, hand out the other candy to all the kids, and go from there. It would be nice to have a nice series in which people decorate their cars a little bit more and try and kind of like have a throwback weekend in a way. I mean, NASCAR always has a throwback weeks, but maybe like a racing Halloween event. That'd be pretty cool, just someone making a tribute livery to someone else. I don't know. I think, Charles, we may have to cook up this story, cook up this idea a little bit after this broadcast comes to a close, because this seems like a killer idea.
Yeah, actually sounds like a pretty fun idea. And I was listening to you as you were kind of running down the list, and you said Long Beach. That's going to be so much fun. That's obviously probably the most difficult racetrack we're going to visit this season, just because it's just such a tight track, very technical, but that's going to be a fun race because I love watching the open wheel cars run there.
Oh, and you can see the open wheel cars running at a track a little bit farther up the coast of California.
Ooh.
This fight with Roger Olson and Rolled is incredibly intense. Had some lap traffic involved there as well. That was a major source of drama. Dominic Batts, the driver of the number 9 car, was involved in that. I believe Clark right behind was the other car in the midst of all of that. There's Eugene Clark in the 73. So those two kind of getting dicey right in front of the drivers running in P4 and P5 at this point in time as the Superlap 3 car makes another run down into the pit. So I think there may have been a very bad commentator's jinx that I pulled all for them. They've stopped in their pit box, so this is a major bit of drama, possibly an incident involving the Superlap 3 car. That may be able to take the Superlap victory to the 4 car, so that'd be a pretty big bit of drama towards the end of this race. Gonna take a look at a replay to see what happened. I think there may have just been an honest tow back to pit lane. There you can see the Superlap 3 number 13 car battling hard, heading down onto the start-finish straightaway, and it looks like riding their way around turn number 1. Just pulling over, so the Superlap 3 car retiring from this race at the very end of it. So that's unfortunate for them. I'm curious if they will still be able to hold on to the lead in the Superlap class, as we like to call it. I think with the 2-lap gap they have to the 4 car, that will be pretty set in stone, even with the 4 car still out there on the racetrack. Less than a minute left to go on the clock, so I believe Russell Soto, unless I'm very much mistaken, is on the final lap of the race. Not sure where he is at this point in time. I believe he's about halfway through the lap, so I believe he will be taking the checkered this time by. So Russell Soto, the driver that started this race from the pole, picked up a pretty good lap time. He has been uber quick thus far in this race. Has a best lap by a pretty big margin. The only driver to dip below the 1-minute 22 bracket thus far is Russell Soto, down to a 1-minute 21.95. He has been incredibly quick thus far, still pulling that lead between himself and Tyler King, who is no slouch at all. There's no real slouches in this series. Lots of pretty quick racers up and down the grid. But it looks like Russell Soto is going to have their number for the opening race of the season at Laguna Seca, heading his way down into the final corner for the final time in this opening race of the season. And Russell Soto going to be wheeling that number 50 car to victory when everything is said and done. There's a checkered flag for Soto. He is victorious here from the opening race of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. He wins it at Laguna Seca. Tyler King in the number 21 car going to finish about 8 seconds back in P2. And Aaron Reuter, who didn't really talk about it too much, is going to end up in the number 27 car, finishing in third. Would have been unfortunate if he ended up finishing this race in 27, especially since we only had 21 race cars. And Superlap 4 I believe, was able to overtake the 3
Yep.
when everything was said and done. So they're going to be victorious in the Superlap class. So well done for them for a P15 position, finishing the race on the racetrack. So Superlap 3 kind of shooting themselves in the foot there, for lack of a better term. Pulling over, I'm sure there's a rhyme or reason for it, but either way, that's going to cost them the victory in the opening race of the season, despite them showing a pretty big advantage pace-wise, with about a second in terms of the best lap of the race between themselves and the 4 car. So that's unfortunate, but I'm sure the 4 won't be complaining at all.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, it's just a matter of maybe just miscounting the laps. Need to come back and finish one more, and I think he would have got the spot. But congrats to Superlap 4 for winning the Superlap class. We're going to start calling it that now. So we'll keep tabs and see. Obviously, these are going to probably maybe different drivers every race. We may have Superlap 4. He may be a Superlap 8 next week. You just never can tell. We'll just wait and find out.
That we certainly will, and I think all the cars have taken the checkered flag in the opening race of this season, so we may be able to run through the results in just a couple of moments' time from the opening race of the Detroit Region SCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. Russell Soto wins it when everything is said, and actually Russell Soto was fastest in practice. He still won it when everything is said and done. An absolutely crushing performance from Russell Soto in that number 50 car. Tyler King going to finish about 8.5 seconds behind in P2. Aaron Reuter going to round out your podium in 3rd. Kevin Rold going to finish in 4th. Roger Olson in P5. That's Matthew Malone in P6. William Linder in P7. Andrew Mowid in P8. Trenton McMillian in P9. And that's going to be Sean Gaynor rounding out your top 10 and looking through the rest of the field. Jason Williams, Dominic Batts, Eugene Clark, Ryan Goff, and then the Superlap car is going to round out your top 18. Then we have a few more cars to look through on the final few results of the cars that took the green. Vaughn Mishko and Michael Schmidt got involved in an incident heading out of the corkscrew. They end up in P19 and P20 when everything is said and done, and the Superlap 6 car going to be the last of the 5 Superlap cars that took to the green flag, took to the racetrack and took the green flag in this race. So those are our results, and Charles, got some drivers in the interview waiting area. Would you possibly want to have a chat with our race winner, Russell Soto?
Yeah, let's bring Russell in here and have a chat with him. Hey, Russell, congratulations on the race win. Looked like you had a pretty commanding advantage as far as pace is concerned, and kind of just managed your pace and cruised on to an easy victory.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you, Charles. It was a very interesting race for sure, especially in the beginning, but once we had a bit of a gap, I was just trying to calm down, control the pace, manage my tires, and the good thing about these cars is that luckily you don't have to do much management. It's full push, and I was just trying to bring the car home.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it a little bit. These cars are they can be a handful. It seems like that they don't always have as much downforce as you'd like for them to have, being an open wheel car. And obviously no analog brakes, so you really have to manage your brakes well. It looks like you did a good job with that. Do you have any struggles out there with any of that?
No, I think it was pretty straightforward on my part for this race. I had enough of a comfort from my gap to P2 that I was able to just manage getting the tires to temperature, getting the brakes to temperature, and towards the end of the race, felt very comfortable in the car. Looked like we were able to be a little bit consistent, so pretty happy overall with how it went.
Awesome. So next week, Road Atlanta. How do you feel about that track in general?
Oh man, Charles, I love that track. That's one of my favorites. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm usually not very confident in Laguna, but I'm happy to come out with the win, and we'll see how this season goes. It's very exciting. A lot of drivers.
All right, Russell. Well, congratulations. We'll get you a chance to give any thanks or shouts out that you want to.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to shout out DRSCCA. It's a great league, great group of guys that comes out to race every Tuesday and Thursday nights. Thursday's broadcasted, of course. And Waterford Hill is a great track. Our title sponsor, Superlap, in particular, for being just a great sim studio to come in, do some laps. I do some sim racing coaching out of there, so definitely feel free to stop by and say hi. I'm always there as well. And yeah, just my parents at New Jersey, my girlfriend in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And yeah, thank you.
All right, Russell, congratulations. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Charles.
And that right there was Russell Soto, who leaves the opening race of this season victorious when everything is said and done, winning at 8.5 seconds over Tyler King in P2. So as you mentioned, Charles, the next race of the season going to be at Road Atlanta. Going to be a somewhat similar ride to what we saw at Laguna Seca here tonight. A track with a very long flat-out blast, though, towards the end of it. Going to be a pretty tantalizing overtaking opportunity for sure. So what are your thoughts heading into that race here for the DRSCCA series in 1 week's time?
Yeah, Road Atlanta is similar in far as elevation changes are concerned. The curbs obviously are going to be another issue with Road Atlanta as well, but much tighter track, and as you mentioned, that long straightaway that just basically dominates the back half of the lap. It's going to make for some great drafting and some overtaking and some bravery going into turn 10A and B. To finish that lap off, and yeah, it's going to be fun, and I'm sure we'll talk a whole lot about it when we start the broadcast next week.
And that is going to be on October the 17th, exclusively here on Apex Racing TV. Got a fantastic schedule of races to look forward to here from the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. And this was an awesome way to kick this season off here on Apex Racing TV. I hope you're all going to stay tuned because this is going to be some fun. But as for this broadcast for the opening race of the season, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Mons, Charles Bichelle joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie doing a fine job working all the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you all again wherever it is in the not too distant future.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.